So let's get cracking on. I've got colleagues with me who will answer some of your questions on some of the more specific technical detail or some of the other areas that you might be interested in. So I have Bao Yu Wang, I have Ruth Drysdale and Greg Ince with me on today's briefing. I'll talk for about 35 to 40 minutes, and we have 3 questions that we will be posing to you throughout that time. If we can't answer all your questions, on top of those, just put things in the chat pane and we will come back to you for sure. And there is also some resources that we are sharing with you in terms of web links and documentation that went live yesterday. Exciting news is those web links, the Jisc International pages, have gone live literally within the last 5 minutes. So it's a new part of our website, specifically devoted for international, and I'll come on to the reasons why. I'm going to put my webcam back off again now, so I'll carry on through the presentation. So this is an overview of what I will be covering. Jisc's international strategy, our international services and support, the new normal as we see it. I'll be looking at some of the things that we're doing specifically focused on China, and I would anticipate a number of you will want to know a bit more about that, including a project that we have ongoing with Alibaba, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. Talk about where we go from here, working in partnership, which is really critical for our sector, and how you can then be involved. This is our standard Jisc slide about us. We provide shared digital infrastructure, sector-wide vendor deals and publisher deals, and expert trusted advice. Our vision is to be the best place in the world to use digital and data to learn and teach and research. We have about 900 staff. We're a large organisation. And I'll touch on this not only to just remind you of the core things that we do, but also because this is my vision for international. I want to be able to offer all of these services and support that we offer to you in the UK. I want to be able to do that internationally. So where we have shared digital infrastructure, we're talking about the Janet network and how that extends to the rest of the world. And those services on top of that, the connectivity services, the security services, trust and identity, all of those things that we offer for you in the UK. The sector worldwide deals with vendors and publishers. We aim, again, to aggregate demand in different parts of the world to be able to get you the best deals, and we'll come on to those specifically. And again, we've built up quite an expertise, a knowledge and expertise in our technology, and we can give expert trusted advice for your international activities. We've been very much in the background with our international work over the last few years. We've done that for a number of reasons, but we really wanted to focus on what our members, what you needed in the UK rather than internationally. Now the world has changed, as we'll come on to. So our international strategy has become more overt over the last few months. These have always been our strategic priorities, and the ones I want to focus on today are really about strategic priority 1, supporting our members internationally wherever you are or want to work in the world. Just touching on the other 2, we know that we've got good products and services that we offer our UK communities, and we want to be able to offer those worldwide, which we do in some cases in trust and identity services, and also our digital skills and capabilities work. The third priority, about being a leader and collaborator of choice, this is about thought leadership, advocacy, collaboration and partnership. We want to work with everyone else globally that we need to be able to achieve the best for our members. So focusing on strategic priority 1, what we can do for you as our members, We've developed over the last probably 5 or 6 years, Bayou and I have developed services and support in the international area to, in the main, focus on transnational education. That was our original focus. So where we're delivering education overseas, we concentrated on branch campuses and partnerships. We didn't really touch online until probably a few months ago. So we've come up with a number of services. We have the first, which is Global Connect. Good connectivity to the rest of the world is essential. You can't do anything without good connectivity. We have a world-class Janet network, and that Janet network is plugged into the rest of the world through Europe and many other peerings that we have to other organisations and institutions across the rest of the world. So we have this service which will help facilitate connectivity to wherever you are, wherever you're delivering education. We have customers in India, Malta and Malaysia. We service EduCity in Malaysia, and we've worked with them for a number of years. And we've worked with Queen Mary's in Malta, again, over a number of years. Where possible, we aggregate demand. We're working at the moment on doing that specifically in the United Arab Emirates, as there are a number of UK institutions over there. And we're working with, our preference, as we say here, is to use the National Research and Education Network. So we're working with them in UAE. They're called Ankabat. And we hope to be able to negotiate a deal with them so that we can connect all of our institutions in UAE back to the UK efficiently. The services that we offer internationally do not come as the Jisc core subscription. Anything that we do internationally has to cover its costs because we're not funded to do that. However, our charges are minimal in this area. So we have a small annual fee to be able to do this. We have setup fees, install fees, and a small 5% on top of the supplier charge for this. But it takes the contracting, the management of contracts, the management of the service, and the risks away from your institution. The second service we have is Global Partnership. This is essentially our advice and guidance service that we've built up, as I say, a good in-country knowledge of various parts of the world, specifically in China and UAE, and we have a lot that we can offer in these areas. If you're having problems with connectivity, but also wider issues, we can look into that with our partners across the world, and we can offer different options and solutions developments. Again, this is a small amount of money. It's a £2,500 annual fee, or there's a daily rate that we can offer as a consultancy, but I think it's about 2.5 days, 3 days, and you may as well just sign up for the annual fee. So we're happy again to offer that. Transnational education licensing. We've been doing this for a number of years. We've been building on our success as Jisc Collections in working with publishers across the UK to get deals and access to content. The TNE licensing service has been a huge success, and we have well over 40 institutions signed up to this service. There are 4 areas of provision: publisher engagement and negotiation, advice and guidance, communications and development activity. But fundamentally, this is about improving the student experience, supporting parity of content, being transparent with publishers. We have a top 10 publishers that we're working with on this, and we've developed a framework for charging, which means that regardless of the country or the publisher you're working with, there is a framework that we have put in place to be able to manage that. Greg and Carolyn, I think maybe on the call. So if there's any discussion about that, any questions about the TNE licensing, they'll be able to help support that. We had, before the current pandemic hit, been looking at digital experiences and digital capabilities of our students overseas. We have good services both in insights and capabilities. Insights is a survey, essentially a survey to look at the digital environment and access and use of digital in the university and college environment. This has been really successful in the UK, and we aim to develop this for TNE students. And Ruth, my colleague, Ruth Drysdale, my colleague here, is here to answer questions on this. We've been doing some work to look at the experience of TNE students, so looking at a comparison between the UK and overseas. And we've done some work with the University of Nottingham Ningbo campus a couple of years ago, which is a case study. Given the situation that we're now in, we have ramped up this work, and there are a number of institutions that want to be able to assess what their students have and staff have access to overseas, as well as developing their digital skills. So we, as I say, we've ramped this up. We've been working with UKISA, the UK Council for International Student Affairs, and their student ambassadors on this programme. We've recently, in the last couple of weeks, been working with them. They are looking at the Digital Experience Insights programme and the survey, carrying out the survey themselves, with a view to rolling out this in a more broad fashion in September. But we'll keep you informed of where we go with that. This particular area is one that we've been working with quite closely with Australia. There are a number of Australian institutions that have picked up on this work and are using both the insights and the capabilities tools. As you'd expect, Jisc has a response to COVID, and we're reviewing our priorities and how we're shifting our challenges for the next, to help support our members over the next 2 years. So these are some of the areas that we've been looking at. Teaching and learning reimagined. We're looking at the UK predominantly for that, but also working on how that teaching and learning, that new experience, that new those new models of TNL will extend or won't extend to overseas education. So what are the differences that we will need to address, and what are the synergies we'll need to address in delivering education overseas? As I just mentioned, we are working on international student experience. This is an area I don't think we've done enough of at all over the last few years, and it's certainly come to the forefront as we've been hit with the pandemic. We've been looking at data visualizations, and we have a subject portfolio planner going live in the next few weeks, and that is based on HIDI data and as a result of Jisc working with HISA and having HISA expertise within Jisc now as we've taken part of HISA Enterprise over. We're also looking at graduate employment with an international perspective. We've recently again merged with HEXU, the Higher Education Career Support Unit, and we'll be working on an international aspect of graduate employment. And one area that the rest of the world has definitely been working with us and looking to us for guidance is on our health and well-being for students in terms of digital. So the first question, given that we are now putting our international strategy at the forefront, if you can just jot down for me as we go through any ideas and how you would like us to help you with your international aspects of your digital teaching and learning strategies, that would be really helpful. We really do want to engage you in the development of our strategy going forward. So anything that you can help us with here would be really, really great. I'll leave you to do that while I carry on and talk about the new normal. This is what we at Jisc are experiencing. As I mentioned earlier, that we had only focused until February on supporting transnational education students because they were overseas, they had unique needs other than, and it was our responsibility. Any international student coming to the UK would be treated the same as any UK student. So we weren't essentially interested in international students. However, things have changed, as we all know. There are a huge number of students that have returned to their home country, and now we need to give them access to their education as they were expecting to be educated in the UK. We need to make sure that they can complete their examination and assessments, run the pre-sessional courses where those students were expecting to come to the UK in the autumn. So there are a number of immediate challenges, as well as a huge new cohort of students that we need to be able to support. We need to do this now. If we don't do this now and do it properly, as we all know, that income and that the international students bring to the UK, along with everything else and all the other abilities and skills that they bring with them, that will just go away. We were on a decline already in student numbers, so we really need a short and a long-term response to COVID. So this is what we are hearing, or have been hearing over the last few months. Really, so much uncertainty. So much uncertainty in where your students are. Are they here? Are they at home? Or have they been caught somewhere in between? Will students return in the autumn? Will they be prepared to pay for their courses? Will we continue to attract international students? Will courses now be online from October? If they are, for how long? Data is critical in this, and working, as I say, with our HESA colleagues is absolutely critical in this area. But as we are working through the next 3 to 5 years, we really need to understand the impact of COVID, and it will be 3 to 5 years, we believe. We also need to convince other countries of the quality of our online education. So we just really needed to look into what our priority areas were, and we did this by looking at the number of students that have been domiciled in a particular country, judged against the technical and legal challenges that there are in that particular country, as well as the digital divide. Now that area is something that we cannot do anything about right now, but maybe it's something that we need to address in the future. But as I say, our priority is looking at the number of students in that particular country and the technical challenges. Some institutions have come to us early on and said, when we were educating in the UK, we now have to educate in 160 countries, each with their different challenges, with their numbers of students, with their technological challenges. But even if there's 1 or 2 students in that area, they still deserve to be educated in that high quality standard that they are used to in the UK. So that brings me to China, and I've seen China pop up in question 1 quite significantly, so it is no surprise that we have focused our efforts on China. We've been probably contacted by about 50 universities since March, and the only question people are asking about is how do we deliver education online in China. So these are the challenges that we see. Strategic challenges, obviously, about the percentage, the high percentage and possibly over-reliance on China for Chinese students. Many are currently unhappy with the level of delivery. And many may not want to travel back to the UK in the future. They do want to stay in China, but again, we need more data on that. Again, a huge unknown. In terms of technology, these won't be a surprise to you. We have to address three areas. Chinese government regulations regarding cross-border virtual private networks, or VPNs, that have restricted their use over the last few years. The China International Gateways, or the Great Firewall, which screens traffic. So that has two implications. One is that certain applications, websites and content are blocked, such as YouTube, Facebook and Google. And there's also intermittent screening, which will slow down the general internet performance. So accessing VLEs would be difficult, for example, with file upload and download, particularly for large files, or for synchronous learning. It's not a reliable service. And there are also geographical challenges. If you're in Beijing or other big cities, there will be good quality connectivity, but not necessarily in the more rural areas or provinces. So those are the real big challenges for China that we have to address. And we do this in a number of ways. We've done a lot of troubleshooting over the past for campus-to-campus connectivity, and I won't go too much into detail over that, but we can offer that as one-to-one bespoke meetings in having really good connectivity between your UK campus and your overseas campus, whether that's a campus owned by yourself, your own branch campus, or whether it's a partnership approach. It's very different for off-campus connectivity, and we'll come to that after this slide. We've got good advice and guidance. We've been working on China issues for a number of years, and we have a number of partners that we use in China and work with. I've set up in the last month a Jisc international team site, a community team site as a discussion area, which has a specific focus on China. And we have been working across the sector with UCISA, with Universities UK International and the British Council specifically on this. We all bring a different approach. UCISA brings the technical perspective of our members. The British Council brings a more student perspective. UK International brings a pretty well-rounded perspective from those parts of your organisations that just isn't well versed in tapping into. We are used to talking to CIOs, to librarians, and those areas of your organisation. But part of the problem is there is no join-up between that and maybe the international leads and institutions. So by doing this cross-sector approach, we hopefully will tap into many parts of your organisation. And then we come to the pilot project that the next few slides will talk about. So as I say, there are different perspectives. Campus-to-campus connectivity, we prefer to use the National Research and Education Network, as I said before, and that's what that looks like. We have peerings to CERNET, which is the Chinese NREN, and we have good connectivity through JAIONT across what's called Orient Plus, direct to China. Every university in China has that link. So campus-to-campus connectivity should not be a problem. Off-campus connectivity is a different matter, and that really has been brought to the fore with the huge number of students going back to China to learn. In the past, we've done this through China Transit. We've actually purchased China Transit from China Telecom and China Unicom, and we've done that in the background. We don't charge our members for that. However, that has become very costly over the last few months. We've seen doubling and tripling of using that transit, which is a cost to us. We have global transit, and we also have peerings with Alibaba Cloud, which then brings me nicely onto our pilot project with Alibaba Cloud. We released some information yesterday, and there are links available to you in one of the boxes that we have somewhere that describe the solution that we're exploring with Alibaba Cloud. Jisc's role in this is to understand the challenges that need to be addressed in accessing content to China, developing different solutions, not only with Alibaba Cloud, but we have to look at other solutions that are on the market that may be able to achieve the same thing but in a different way. But we'll do that on behalf of the sector, and we'll do that to make sure that any solution would be available at small and large scale, making sure that's appropriate, and possibly where we can aggregate demand to make sure that we can make any solution that we propose affordable for our members. And that's one of the key issues that we've had to address. So this solution, or the solutions that we're looking at, are about improving the quality and performance of connectivity and reliable access to course material, including VLE systems hosted on Janet or other cloud providers' networks, for global distance learning between, for now, the UK and China. The solution needs to be affordable, as I say, whether it's a small or a large cohort, that needs to be affordable for our members. I'm not going to read through all of that. I'll leave that for you, but as I say, it's also in the briefing that's come up in the web links. So this is what we have been working with Alibaba Cloud on. This solution came to us from Universities UK. There are similar solutions that are working with in Australia with I think over half of Australian universities, although the solution is slightly different. My colleague Bayu has been able to work directly with Alibaba to make sure that the solution that they offer us is better for our members. So the connectivity does not go via Hong Kong, it's direct to London, and that has its added advantages. But also, more importantly, or as important, is the fact that the help desk or the support is not in Australia. So there are some universities that have taken this up in the UK. One of the problems that they experience with the Australian solution is obviously the help desk has a lag time of sort of 12-24 hours before you can do anything. So this is the solution that we have. And these are the main advantages of what we see. The key features and the main advantages. So it's stable, it's fast. We have a guaranteed service level agreement of 99.95%. We have good latency. We have short contract terms. So you can sign up for a month. So if it's not working for you, then we can stop the subscription. It's flexible, as I say, in terms of the contract terms, but also the bandwidth required. So if you require significant bandwidth for an examination period or online pre-sessional courses, for example, or a particular part of the term, we can increase and decrease that bandwidth within a very short time. The solution, if you wanted the solution, we could get that to you within 48 hours working with Alibaba, and it can support tens of thousands of end users. What we are looking at in the pilot is what we're testing is the latency, the access to applications that may not be possible to access normally through the great firewalls such as YouTube and Facebook, etc. We're looking at authentication. We're looking at that flexibility and how we manage bandwidth and how that can bring down costs. We're looking at the costs per student and that whole scalability point. Those are the things that we are hoping to test. Alibaba has offered us a 1-month trial for free with 4 institutions. That trial is due to start next week. We've had to go through a number of excuse me, we've had to go through a number of information security checks, obviously GDPR and data protection, to make sure that we're all in line and the universities are fully supported in that. Everyone's happy, and we will be going ahead next week with the University of York, University of Southampton, Queen Mary's and King's College. We're also, as I said, working with UK International, UCISA and the British Council on this. We're trying to start this next week, as I say, from the 1st of June. It's a 1-month trial, and we will keep you informed as we go through. As I mentioned earlier, we have a Jisc international community team site, and if you email me, I can get you onto that team site. We'll be putting the costs, the summary, and also an FAQ on there specifically about this project, so you can monitor it as we go through and ask us questions, and we'll see if we can address those. It isn't the only solution on the market, as you'll know. There are many other institutions, suppliers that can do similar things, achieving the same results in a different way. In parallel to running this pilot project with Alibaba, we are running a procurement process that will hopefully establish a multi-supplier framework by September to be able for you to be able to sign up to that for the start of next term. We know timescales aren't working really well here. We'd love another month to be able to do this properly for you, but there are ways in which you can sign up if Alibaba project is successful. There are ways that you could sign up to that, for example, directly with them in the short term. As I say, there's a one month on and off switch essentially, and we can negotiate discounts for you directly with Alibaba. When and if Alibaba come under the multi-supplier framework, there will be far more significant discounts that we'll be able to offer, but we will let you know of that as and when. So how do you get information? There's a project briefing and the link is there. There's an expression of interest form, and I would really encourage any university or college that is interested in this solution needs to fill in that EOI form. That's gone live today. Without your interest, we can't aggregate that demand and negotiate better deals for you. Every university and I would say college in the country has Chinese students in this situation to a greater or lesser degree. We aim to run a panel session in mid-June with UCISA and also a project briefing we will do at the end of the pilot project for you to become more engaged. And again, let me know about that, whether you want to be on that international community team site for a number of reasons, but this being one of the most fundamental.
Hi, Esther. Sorry, it's Scott here. Sorry to intervene. Can I just make a suggestion? People didn't really get a lot of time to fill in the first chat question, so can I suggest that we just have a pause for a minute during the presentation while people fill in the chat box, because it's really difficult to do the chat box and follow the slides at the same time. Is that okay?
No problem at all.
Thanks.
So we'll give you time for filling in this. What are your main challenges in China that you would like our help with? Given what we've said, how can we help you more? Okay, I'll let you carry on filling in those. There's some interesting ones coming up. some of which I've not seen before. So we will get back to you with all of these questions and address everything that you've raised. Okay. As I said earlier, the costing or an indicative costing will be put up as of Monday on that international team site. So it could well be a costly solution, but then I think people have to ask themselves how much you're willing to invest in your international students to get this quality of performance. Okay, moving swiftly on. How do we maintain the momentum? We've all seen how we've managed to get everybody online to do those exams and assessments, to do the pre-course work really quickly over the last few months. And we've achieved an awful lot. But now, where do we go from here? Before the pandemic, we'd done quite a lot of information on teaching and learning and research in the new industrial revolution. So Industrial Revolution 4, so what we call Education and Research 4.0, where we had come together to work on in the pre-COVID world, but we need to, again, adjust what we do. We'd run in 2019-2020 3 international workshops on International Education 4.0. And they come up with some really interesting pathways and challenges and opportunities, and how we can use not new technologies, but technologies that already exist, such as AI, mixed virtual augmented reality, 5G, Internet of Things, cloud computing, big data, all of those things, how we can really deliver education internationally better and have not just a better student experience, but a new student experience. And that has really come to the fore. So how do we take this forward? Given how quickly we've got to this point, how do we take this forward? So these are some of the questions that you might want to think about when it starts to calm down a little bit more. And I'll let you just reflect on those for a second. And are these the right questions that we're asking? What else should we be looking at? So final question, what would International Education 4.0 mean for you? And are you ready for it? And again, how can we help support that?
Hi Esther, I just wanted to mention briefly as well, just in case anybody was concerned, that we appreciate that we're a bit pressed for time during this online briefing. So what we will do, because we very much want to capture all your views and your questions, we'll have a bit of time at the end where we'll reopen these 3 chat questions that we've had for you to give you another opportunity to type in your responses if you didn't do it earlier. Okay, we're just conscious that we don't keep them open too long during the session because it does block the slides. Thanks, Esther.
No worries. And given that, we will probably have that time. I've got probably 1 or 2 more slides, and then we can have that time to ask some more questions and for reflection. So as I said before, key to success, our future success in this COVID world and post-COVID world is working in partnership. We've been working, a lot of the work that I did when I started our international strategy a few years ago was to make sure that our sector bodies in the UK with an international outlook understood what Jisc could do, what our capabilities were, and the part of the jigsaw really that we can play for the UK sector as a whole in both research and education. So we've been working really closely with UK International, Department for International Trade, QAA, UK NARIC, British Council, UCISA, UPISA, and Advanced HE. And that work that we did over the last few years has really come to the fore now, and I think the sector has been very strong in pulling together and creating a response to COVID and support for our members in all of those organisations. We've been working closely, very closely with Australia, who are in a very similar situation to us. The only difference really being their turn times are different. So we've been learning from each other, and we've been working with ARNET, who are the Research and Education Network in that country, and CORDIT, who are the UCISA equivalent. We've been working in China, again with the National Research and Education Network, and also with the British Council office in China, who've been really helpful. We have a network of global chief executives of research and education networks across the world, what we call the willing and able chief executives of those organisations, who meet every 6 months, and education is really at the forefront of their agenda. Our research and education networks were set up predominantly to move large swathes of research data across the world. That's pretty much works okay, and the focus now really is on delivering education through those networks. We've worked with GEANT, who are the European sort of conglomerate of research and education networks, and we have transnational education groups and task forces for education that we work with closely on with GEANT. These are the resources that I've mentioned all the way through. For anything really, just contact us on international@jisc.ac.uk. That's it from me. We've got 15 minutes to answer any questions, so I will put my webcam back up.
Okay, everybody, if you do have a question for Esther or the rest of the team, if you could use the raised hand icon that you can see at the top of your screen, and then what we'll do is we'll take each question in turn. Any questions that we don't get a chance to answer today in this session, we'll get back to you after the session. So please do pop your questions into chat if you don't get a chance to ask them, and we'll make sure we'll respond then. So just a quick reminder, if you click on the raised hand icon at the top of your screen, it's the 4th icon along, and then what we'll do is we'll get you to open up your mics and we'll take the questions in turn. Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, Esther, so I think you've covered everything quite comprehensively, or people are still struggling to find where the raised hand icon is, perhaps. So.
I just wondered whether Bayou, Greg or Ruth wanted to add anything while they have the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm certainly very curious to hear from delegates. How are they gathering students and potentially staff that are not in the UK? How are they getting their feedback on the experience to date? And how do they think they'll get feedback in the future going forward? Are you treating your international students any differently from your home students in terms of provision? So especially if colleagues are thinking about synchronous or asynchronous delivery for the next academic year, how will that play out with international in different time zones? So I believe during the sort of initial acute phase, International were expected to access recordings asynchronously after the synchronous event had happened in the UK. But thinking about parity of experience, how are things going to be done going forward? So I don't know if anybody's sort of willing to either pick up the mic and speak or put in the chat how they're addressing these sorts of challenges about delivering parity of experience over different time zones and gaining feedback on what the challenges and issues are with those students in different countries.
Okay, I can see a lot of people typing in chat, so it looks like that will generate quite a bit of discussion. We do have David with his hand up, Esther. So, David, if you want to open your mic and ask your question as well, that'd be fantastic.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, David,
yeah,
we can hear you.
I just wanted to say, I think you got the questions exactly right there. Those three things are exactly what we're struggling with. And I don't have the immediate answers, so maybe people are going to jump in here with their fantastic answers to these things, but we I think are really struggling around that issue about the synchronous versus asynchronous, the question about how we gather the feedback on the sort of the experience of students in China, because we're really struggling with this sort of drip feed of kind of negative feedback or problem reports, and what we're really unable to do is ascertain just what proportion of our students are really struggling at the moment, and trying to separate sort of the noise, or particularly individual cases, from the wider experience. So if people have solutions to that, that's great. At the moment, we're trying to sort of go out quite proactively on a program by program basis to get feedback about what the experience is like. So yeah, no answers, but I think you've asked all the right questions there.
And I think that's where our cross-sector approach really does come in with UKISA particularly, and Universities UK and British Council, I'd say, as well. British Council have done a lot of work with students, particularly in China, asking some quite pertinent questions, and I'll try and put that on the link to that on the international community team site, actually, because there's some quite interesting stuff direct from students. But like you say, you do tend to get the more negative, unfortunately. So a more consistent and wholesome approach to getting international student feedback on their experience is absolutely critical. Something I think we've neglected for a while. I can see a question.
You've got another question from Shuang Gao. I don't know if you want to open up your mic, Shuang. The question is also available in chat, Esther. It's where can we find more information about campus-to-campus connection?
In China specifically, I'm assuming, or anywhere in the world, just contact us directly. We can talk you through what the optimal arrangement should be, and then we can work with you on how that actually in practice does work. I can also see a few people asking the question of the Alibaba project about the last mile. I'm afraid it doesn't address the last mile connection. Is there anything you wanted to say about that? I think you're on mute. If you wanted to say any more about the last mile and the Alibaba project, you're off mute.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute it. Thanks, Esther. For the last mile, Alibaba's the solution where for students from their home using their own home-like Wi-Fi to get a connector to VPN connection to Alibaba Smart Access Gateway. So the last mile from students' home really depends on in the region where their local students' Wi-Fi supply the quality of the service. And if without Alibaba's service, so all those traffic will be routed through the international gateway. So congestion on the within China, we don't know where it would be. But with Alibaba, we know there are 8 Alibabas the big region nodes with smart access point gateway. So the local in China part probably would be better than without it. So that's what we want through the pilot and to try it, because when Queen Mary University of London have already selected a number of students in different parts of China to do the trial. So we will gather information from their student experience to say which part of China probably is not up to speed. And so we can let people know. But without this pilot trial, we currently have no idea. Big city like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou or Shenzhen, it's good. But in the other rural area, we don't know. Is it okay?
Yeah, thank you, Vanya. One of the things that I'd just like to point out, as well as coming to us directly in the international team, I'm just going to put a link up here. Oh, let's see if I can put it up. We have obviously account managers for all universities and colleges in the UK, and it would be good to make contact with them as well as us at the same time, because there may be other things that they can offer. There are a number of account managers on the call listening in as well. Yeah, have a look at the link. If you don't know who your account manager is, please do get in touch with them. We have a few more minutes if there are any more questions. The other questions have popped up again. If you want to add any more, it's your opportunity to. Thanks, Carl. I've noticed that. I noted your issues, and we'll pick that up with the account manager team. Thank you.
I saw a question about whether this solution will apply to students in Hong Kong or Macau or somewhere in that Far East. Alibaba's solution actually is currently is for mainland China, because for students in Hong Kong, this is not gratifiable, it's not an issue. So students can use their home broadband connectivity to the VLE outside of China very just as efficient as it can be. And with Taiwan, I think there are no, basically this Alibaba solution is really get away with the Chinese regulation. So this is using Alibaba's private enterprise network, so the traffic will not go through the China International Gateway. This is the main focus. And so in the other part of in Far East, no, this is not an issue, so we are not addressing it in the pilot.
I just had another question there about, does G Suite work through Alibaba? University of York used G Suite and they are part of the trial. That was the reason for including University of York as well. There you go, Richard, thank you.
I can see earlier to answer to question 1, there are lots of questions about China and the difficult challenges in China. As Esther mentioned, we will produce a Q&A document. So we really appreciate all those questions. We will respond in that Q&A document.
Okay. As we said, the questions that we haven't responded to already online, we will do in each of those question boxes as well as the chat. So I will be getting back to you in the next week or so with those. But please do sign up to our community website. Just email me directly if you want to be invited. Edward, over to you.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you very much for this briefing. I hope everybody's found it beneficial. We've got now to our finish time of 11, so we will bring the session to a close. As Esther was saying, we'll collate any questions that haven't been followed up on and get back to you with those. You've got Esther's email address there if you'd like to go direct. The session is recorded, as I was saying at the start, and it'll be made available on the webpage probably by the end of day, Tuesday next week at the latest. And if you haven't downloaded the slides, you can do so in the pod at the top, and also the feedback forms linked just to the right of that as well. We really appreciate your feedback from the session today. So thank you very much to Esther Wilkinson for delivering, and also, of course, to Bayu, to Greg and to Ruth for picking up questions at the end, and to my colleague Scott for helping with the facilitation too. So to leave the session, all you need to do is just close your tab or window that you've got the session running in. That logs you out. You can go meeting top left and go down to exit Adobe Connect, and that will log you out. So apart from that, have a lovely rest of Friday and have a nice weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.